Roz.
And it's your man Kil, back for another episode of Till Death Info. Got another question, so we're going to jump into this real quick.
We love the questions, guys. Keep them coming.
Dr. Roz and Kil, I was reading an article and it was stating that more people are getting divorced in the church than people. Why do you think that is? Shouldn't church marriages be lasting longer?
Wait, getting divorced more than what? Oh, people in the church getting divorced more than people out of the church. I got you. Wow, that's an interesting concept.
Actually, Tanya did some research for
okay.
me on this. She was saying that people are disputing these statistics based off of, I guess, on the what's that thing called? To see how many people, the census.
Oh, the census.
Based off of the census, because you fill out an application and you fill out things.
Yeah.
You have to check, non-denominational, Christian, Muslim, whatever. So they're basing the statistics off of that. But it's saying, you don't know if the people who are checking Christian actually go to church. Are they practicing Christians, things like that.
That's true.
So from this website she found, she was basically saying that 55% of non-religious marriages end in divorce versus 32% of marriages of people who are practicing Christians, meaning they go to church every week, they read during the week, they pray, things like that. So 32%. So looking at it like that, the rates aren't as bad
much,
as what it seems. But she also did find out that more black Christians get divorced or really more blacks in any religious denomination get divorced more than whites. So
it's just heartbreaking that this is the statistic for us, because really, what is that saying about our community? That we have an inability to solve problems. We don't know how to problem solve.
Well, you know how we even got started when I'm like, black folk ain't go for marriage.
I know.
So
people still give you the side eye for that comment.
It's okay.
Especially because
But the statistics
you need
true.
to talk about that, though, so people are like, what did you just say?
But the statistics hold true. So my philosophy has always been that I feel as black folk, we aren't built for marriage. And what I mean by built is we haven't had the building blocks of growing up in two-parent homes and being able to see those things. From working with kids in the projects in the hoods of DC for over 13 years, when you talk to them about education and college and things like that, they're like, nobody in my hood goes to college. Nobody does that. So I don't know anyone that's married. Yeah, it's hard to reach for something that you really don't see. You know what I mean? I always tell people, if nowadays if you get cancer, depending on if it's like a real bad cancer, but if you get things like breast cancer and prostate cancer that people have survived from, people really don't look at it as a death sentence anymore. Right. But that's because we've seen people survive from it. If we didn't see people survive these things, it will probably be a death sentence. So at the end of the day, if we're growing up and we're not seeing, like I always say, my block probably has 200 houses on it, and I can count on one hand how many of my friends lived in a two-parent house. So out of 200 houses, I can count on one hand how many people. So that's 5 against 195. So if you're not seeing, these images, and the only time you see them is on TV, I mean, it's hard to really have the building blocks to see, because
relate to it.
When you're growing up, you're seeing how things are done. You're seeing whether they're right or whether they're wrong.
That's observational learning.
Right. Use your PhD jargon. Observational learning. And if we don't observe something, we ain't learning nothing. So it's and then on top of that,
it's really sad when I see couples. I think you hit the nail on the head. I really can't tell the couples that have never seen anyone cohabitate together and appropriately. And when I say appropriately, meaning stability in the home and responding to each other in a respectful manner.
Right.
So, I mean, it really becomes very, very clear about who has not had that experience and how they are functioning outside of that. Even if they go on to find someone to marry, if they don't get those areas of their life right, or get an understanding of what that looks like, they are going to have issues, serious issues in their marriage, serious issues.
And then Pastor Jenkins was even breaking down once how you had back in the 60s, a lot of the men were leaving the house. So Big Mama was raising the kids, and Big Mama wasn't necessarily all the time giving the daughters the best advice. She may have been telling the daughters, keep your own, have a stash on the side, don't trust no man, don't give no man your all.
That's still, unfortunately, that's still advice you hear today.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that those, truth be told, aren't good building blocks for a marriage.
For a marriage, because if you can't
and you're
trust,
raising these daughters to be independent, which goes against what marriage is. So then this woman now gets married, and she's like, really, I don't need you for anything. I make my own money. I got my own house. I got my own Lexus. What do I really need you for? I really don't need you for anything. You're really just like the arm candy, just to say that I'm married. And if that's your attitude going into it, keeping in mind that God is calling all of us to be submissive, but women to be submissive to the husband, I don't know if that woman who's been raised like that has a submissive bone in her body.
That's a good point.
So
if you try to get into a marriage not knowing how to be submissive,
right?
Wow,
and so many single
issues.
Christian women miss the boat when they're single, when they could be practicing the submission, because really you're going to have things even as a single person you're going to want to do. But you really should be submitting to God and saying, well, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. And maybe that will be preparing you. But, it's kind of like I'm single, and it's like I can do what I want to do. So it's one of those things where you're not even giving yourself the right preparation for what marriage is about to be about. To me, it's why you have to do things in appropriate order. You can't go to college first before you go to high school, because high school is preparing you for college. You can't just jump to get your master's before you did undergrad, because everything is about preparation. But I don't think as people we're preparing ourselves to move into the marriage world. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But even to say 32% of practicing Christians are getting married, to me, that's a little alarming. Because these are the people who are actually practicing it. Yeah. But I think the biggest thing is,
and still don't understand the tenets of what it takes to have a marriage. It's very scary.
Yeah. I say all the time, and I always say that church folk hate me because I don't have time to play with church folk. You know what I'm saying? And just because you go to church on Sunday, don't mean you no Christian. It may you just go to church to look good and to make yourself feel good. But what I'm saying by that is that as Christians, we have to open up. And I think as some Christian and a lot of church folk do, we want to make it seem like we've got it all together. I've got my beautiful wife, I'm dressed nice, I got my house, I got my cars. Everything is good when nothing is good.
Honest.
So, I know people who are going through hell, but if you ask them on Sunday, I'm blessed and highly favored. God is good and God is just keeping me.
Too blessed to be stressed.
Yeah, and that's great. But at the end of the day, you gotta, there are some people, sometimes you gotta watch who you ask, because, hey, how you doing today, bro? Not good. Yeah. And you gotta be ready to sit there and listen to an hour story about how he's not doing good. But I like that, because that's being real.
You're being honest.
But too many married couples come to church on Sunday and they look good in church, and then as soon as they get in that car and leave, it's fighting, it's beefing, everything is wrong. And the thing is that instead of being able to really, because really the whole point of being, a Christian is to share your testimony to help other people move along. Absolutely. And what's happened is, we begin to microwave our testimonies. Absolutely. And our testimonies have come to, I used to be on drugs, but now I'm not, praise Jesus. And that's a microwave testimony, because see, my thing is, how'd you get over the drugs? Yeah, because that's what's gonna help somebody who's a drug addict right now, is when you say, hey, I used to be hooked on drugs, but this is the way I got off the drugs. Yeah. And we've gotta share those things so that other people can see, this is what it is. And it's something that's always, bothered me about gospel artists. Like, I hate them half the time. I hate them.
That's such a strong word.
Okay, I dislike them all the time. But it's because, I just think there's so much power in your testimony.
Oh,
and I own all of Diane McKirkland's albums. and I had no idea of his problem with homosexuality until like I saw a special on him on BET.
Yeah.
So you got 8 albums, and you don't even
and you ain't talked about
touch
none of
on
that.
that. Like,
I got you.
I got all Fred Hammond CDs. I don't know nothing about Fred. How'd I find out about Kirk's porn addiction? Oprah. You know what I mean? And he has one song touching on it. And I'm just saying that to say
I think
that
he's getting more real though.
Okay.
I think Kirk is.
My thing, I don't know. My thing is that the reason why hip hop has always been the voice of the youth is because these people are honest with you. Eminem tells you, I hate my baby's mom and I want to kill her. So for the dude out there who hates the baby moms, you relate to Eminem.
Yeah.
You know, hip hop is a culture and it's a music about relationships.
Gotcha.
You know, Beanie Siegel's from Philly. I'm from Philly. You know, it's always about the relationship. You know, if you're from Brooklyn and Jay-Z's from Brooklyn, there's a relationship. If you sold drugs and he sold drugs, there's a relationship. If you didn't know your dad, he didn't know his dad, there's a relationship.
And what's that, the Marcy Brothers?
Yeah, the Marcy. Yeah, look at you, Marcy. Okay, you know where Jay's from. But all that to say that
I don't know, bro.
It's a relationship building music.
Absolutely.
And it makes people not just be fans of your music, but they're fans of you. Because I've seen literal fist fights over who's better, Biggie, Jay-Z, or Nas. And people will literally fight for people they've never met. But it's because you have so much invested interest in them.
Gotcha.
Because they remind them of themselves. For me, I'm a big Kanye fan. Not just because of his music, but because of the struggle that he had. You know, when he's rhyming about,
You know, I was listening Through the Wire on my way here, and I was just like, that's when Kanye was just...
Yeah, even when he's talking about, being in your room making 5 beats a day for 3 summers, you know, I relate to that. So, I relate, how, with hip hop, you build these relationships with these artists. So it's not just I'm a fan of your music, but I just feel with gospel, it's all praise and worship, which is good. I mean, you're supposed to praise God, but at the end of the day, J. Rue the Damager said something. He said, when you have a voice to say something, say something.
Mm-hmm.
J. Rue. Oh, okay, it's a hip hop moment for Roz. You had a crew called the Gangstar Foundation. My favorite producer, DJ Premier, and Guru.
Okay, I know Guru.
Okay.
I think I've heard of Gangstar.
Okay. J. Rue is down with the Gangstar Foundation.
Okay.
The Gangstar Foundation was Gangstar, J. Rue the Damager, and the group home. That was Malachi and Little Dad.
Gotcha.
So J. Rue once said, when you have a voice to say something, say something.
I agree with that.
So all I'm saying is that, use
your voice, use your platform.
For me not to know anything about Fred or Cece or BB or none of these gospel people, I mean, tell me, was you on drugs? Did you drink? Did you, I know Kirk ain't the only dude watching porn and at the Stella Awards. Come on, I don't know nothing about Mary, except she married to a producer and she has horrible weaves. Her wigs are horrible.
I like them. Don't criticize them.
Okay.
They about to have their own reality show. So maybe we'll find out something about
All I'm saying is, that's what bothers me about people having the opportunity to give their testimony and they don't. So if you got 1 million people buying your records, probably not many people didn't see the BET special on Donnie McKirkland. Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. So with testimonies, and I tell people this all the time, I don't want you to stand up and tell me, oh, I've been married 50 years and we've had ups and downs, but we made our way through it. I'm tired of these microwave testimonies. Tell us. He cheated on me, and this is how we got past it. So then that way, somebody in that audience is going to be like, there's hope.
There is hope.
But when you say little dumb stuff like, oh, we've been through that. Because it really bothers me when you put these little microwave testimonies in place and you're not helping nobody. It's almost like you just doing it to make yourself, get off of me. It's like you almost doing it just to make yourself feel good. Get off of me. Okay. It's almost like you just doing it to make yourself feel good.
Yeah.
It's like, dog, if you ain't willing to tell your story,
tell the truth.
Just shut up. Just sit down. Sit down and shut up. So that's the whole thing about why a lot of Christians practicing Christian marriages aren't working, because I truly believe it takes a village to raise a marriage. You cannot do this just with your husband and your wife. You can't. I understand why you think that. I've been there, done that.
You don't want people in your business.
Right. I totally get it.
But you gotta have an advisory council.
You gotta have some people around you
that's a friend to your marriage.
In that marriage.
Yeah.
That's the only way it's gonna work. Because one of your girlfriends is gonna have to tell you, go home. Get your butt up out this club and go home to your husband right now. You're gonna need some dudes who say, yo, dog, we've been at the sports bar all day. Go home to your wife. You gotta have people who are invested in you.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if you don't tell nothing,
not just invested in you, but invested in your marriage.
Right.
People that are friends to your marriage, because there are a lot of people that are friends to one person in the marriage.
Right.
But if they are not a friend to your marriage, that's a problem.
And the problem is you don't have enough people in your crew to do that. Yeah. Like my best friend Fish, he'll tell me in a second, he'll be like, nah, I agree with T. I think T is right. Yeah. Like, and that's what you need. I don't want people on my team who just like, yeah, Kil, you're right.
Right,
yeah, Kil,
right.
You're right. Nah, T, I want people to say, yo, T's right. I think she's right.
T's his actual wife.
I'm not married to her.
So, I'm not married to him.
Exactly. So
we wouldn't last 6 months.
Yeah. So that's what we need. So, it takes those testimonies. So I think that's one of the reasons why the divorce rate is still high in the church, is because there's not enough. Number one, we're faking it. Yeah. Number two, you're looking around and you're always you compare yourself to other people's marriages and what their marriages look like. And you have no idea
when you're married, you think you're an expert on marriage.
Yeah, but I mean, just in terms of, you can have somebody who lives in an apartment, and then they look at somebody who lives in a house, and you compare where you are to where they are by what possessions you own. And your marriage may be 10 times better than their marriage, but you look at it like it's not, because we're not at where they're at. This is where I should be at by 37. I should have this and I should have that, and I don't. So then my marriage isn't, good. Right. And you got not at all. And in our last marriage ministry, one of the people was at our church. Our husband was deployed in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. So they were just talking about how, they didn't get to spend a lot of time together last year.
Right now it's a horrible time to be there with that soldier going haywire.
So they were talking about how they didn't get to spend a lot of time together last year. My pastor was like, you may never know. Between all the Skyping and emailing, y'all probably spent more time together than people who actually live together. Yeah. And it's like, that's really bad. Bad. You ain't seen your husband in a year, but you've actually spent more time communicating and building with him than somebody who's sees their husband and their wife every day. So I just think that at the end of the day, you got to get that circle of people that you trust, that I actually stepped to a couple in our church, and I told them, I said, look, I don't do the gossip thing. I could care less. We just want to pour into your marriage. That's it. And the wife, as understandably, was like, well, yeah, because I didn't know, because I don't know y'all, and I don't want my business. And it's
so were you trying to be like a mentor to them?
Yeah. Trying to just help them, trying to, give them some advice. Couple. Yeah, trying to give them some advice, and we've been through it. Let us share ways that you can get past that, because that's what this is really all about. It's about trying to share what we've been through,
which is why we do this
in our individual marriages, to try to help people understand you're not by yourself, and that's a lot of times how you feel. You feel like we're the only ones going through it. It can be very lonely.
It can be very isolating, and people think that in a marriage you won't be lonely, and that is farthest from the truth.
Yeah.
That is farthest from. I know a lot of people that are married that are lonely, but the reason being is that they do not know how to manage a relationship or manage their interpersonal relationships. And so they do emotional cutoffs. They have resentment going. They have all these things in place instead of trying to get to having an appropriate relationship with their spouse, which is what leads to the cheating, the this, the that, the double life. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people live a secret life. Right. And that's scary.
And then I also think another piece of the church is sometimes we can be overly religious.
Oh, yeah.
I have no problem with you saying, anoint your husband every morning, anoint your wife every morning. But then I need some practical steps too. Yeah. And sometimes people can be overly religious in the church, and it's like, well, just pray for your husband. It's like, cool. But I'm about to kill this Negro. Yeah. So in the meantime, while I'm praying.
So you want me to pray to God not to kill him?
Right.
Like give me the words.
What else do I need to do? And I just really believe that there's a thin line, between being a pessimist and being optimistic about religion. Like, there's a spiritual side, there's a practical side, and then there's a small side that's right there in the middle where we need to be. And a lot of times people are just overly religious. I totally agree. Anoint your husband and your wife every morning. And pray for them.
Some people may not know what that means.
Right. Anointing is basically, taking oil and just, on the forehead, and just praying for them.
Yeah.
And just praying for them. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing is, I was thinking the other day, before I got saved, I used to engineer these gospel talk shows. And I swear Christians spoke a whole nother language. I never forget, it was this little kid, probably about 12, 13. He used to come in and help engineer the talk shows. And I was doing this talk show with my man Dwayne. What's up, Dwayne? He has his own church now up in Baltimore, Speak to My Heart Ministries. He was doing the show, Speak to My Heart, and somebody said a backslider. And I was like, what kind of monster is that? What's a backslider? And the little kid Derek started laughing like, oh, that's somebody who's in the church. And I'm like, sound like a monster. What?
Backslider sounds like a monster to you.
Yeah, really? Like Nightcrawler, like.
Oh, okay.
Like Nightcrawler, like. If you on the radio and you like, yeah, that person's a Nightcrawler, you like, oh, what? So they like that person a backslider. I'm like, what kind of? That's a demon or something, Or they used to always be like, secular music. I'm like, what is these words that y'all keep coming up with? I don't get y'all. Like, I just don't do it. Y'all got your own language. So, yeah. So that's what anointing is. And, pray for your husband. Pray for your wife every day. But it's not just any oil.
It's oil that's been prayed over.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't just go downstairs and get some Crisco. And you can pray over the oil yourself, But just don't get no Crisco from the chicken from last night. So, with that, I just think that, we can be overly religious. Yeah, so we don't give that advice. Because it's all about steps. It's all about a process. If you don't get something, when I had a math tutor, he would break it down and break it down in steps as this is how you can solve this problem. It can't just be pray over the problem.
No.
It has to be pray over the problem.
And I think that's what we get a lot of times. Just pray about it. But some people don't even have the words to pray. They don't know what to pray.
Right.
They don't know how to pray. And so sometimes you do need practicality. And again, too, people really just think that, and prayer does answer everything. I'm a Christian. I do believe that. But you have to recognize that God put people in your life that can help your relationship as well. And I think that some people just say, just get to the point where I'm praying about it. God never answered. So maybe it's time for me to get out. And never doing anything to try to salvage the relationship.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you just really need to do whatever you can do. Or whatever it is you want to. Because maybe you just don't want your marriage.
Right.
And that's another question. Are we really marrying who God has prepared for us to marry? That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's another topic.
But that is something totally to think about, because sometimes we get ourselves caught up in these situations where it looks good, it looks like it's going to be good, and then it turns out to be our worst nightmare.
So prayerfully that answered your question.
Yes.
All the statistics aren't technically right, you know what I mean? And the one thing about data is I feel like you can always skew it either way to make it, look however you want it to look. But I do know, I can tell you this with a fact, there are a lot of church marriages in the church that are struggling right now. Yeah. I can tell you that without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. Don't know the statistics, but
that's why there's so many couples ministries and marriage ministries.
We're struggling
because it is a struggle.
Out of ignorance, though, I believe, because we don't know how to. Like I said, you get married, and it's just like, here's the keys to the car. Nobody taught you how to drive the car, park the car, nothing. It's just like, here's the keys.
And that's the sad thing, that we practice other things that we want to do in life. Like if you go on and get a degree or whatever, you're practicing how to be in that business.
Right.
If you get an advanced degree, you're definitely practicing how to be in that business based on internships and practicums and externships. And nobody really practices how to be married. Right. And that's just something that while you were in that courting process.
And see, the thing that folk don't know is marriage is more than about love.
Yes.
And see, the relationship is really more so just about love. I love this person. The love. Well,
marriage is a whole
marriage
level. It's about commitment.
Right. It's gonna be time.
I wake up every morning saying I am committed to Frank Black. Every morning. And I have to tell myself that sometimes, because marriage is not easy.
It's not about love.
And it's not about love, but it's like I am committed to him, and I gotta make sure that I'm doing things that show that I am committed to him and that I'm honoring him in this commitment.
That's right. So prayerfully we answered your question. tilldeathinfo@gmail.com. I'm your man Kil.
And I'm Dr. Roz.
Keep it locked.